Hi, this is Julia with Synergy FlowArts, and we're here in the Flojo, which is my studio. It's kind of a circus, arts, dance, movement sanctuary in Carborough, North Carolina. So I think one of the biggest things to know when you're picking a hoop is that hoops are kind of specific to the techniques that you want to try. It's going to be hard to do all the techniques that you might be inspired to do in one hoop. So for my beginner classes, we use both. We spend part of the time in, say, like a bigger hoop to practice on-body techniques, and we spend some time in the small hoops to practice off-body stuff. So generally, our beginner series line is going to be really good for core hooping and techniques kind of on the horizontal plane on the trunk of the body. Whereas our Polypro section is a lighter series, which is really great for the hands. So in my beginner classes, we use both a sort of generous sized, maybe 40 to 48 inch hoop for waist hooping. And that's our beginner series, like the 3/4 inch, kind of a 100 PSI. And we use Polypros or even the air hoops to practice and learn stuff on the hands. This is a great hoop for on-body learning core stuff. This hoop is super light. If you're learning on-body techniques, it'll be incredibly challenging because it's called the Air Series because it's so light. It's a feather light. So it's harder to respond to it on the core, but it's really gentle on the hands. So this hoop is a Polypro, but at the larger size, at like the 41 inch range. This hoop has a different set of strengths. So it's light, like the ones I'm recommending for the off-body practice, the hand hooping, but it's got a generous enough diameter to be able to be kind of like a good second hoop, like a sort of an intermediate hoop. So this hoop is really, really helpful for learning how to hoop on the legs, on the chest, places where it can start to get a little painful or uncomfortable with a heavier hoop. This hoop it's lighter, but it has that ability to go slower because it's bigger. Okay, so we've talked about hoop styles, like the tubings, and kind of like more like the general application of each hoop. And then there's still a range within that hoop, right? Like, you know, a 10-inch diameter difference, or maybe sanded, bare versus taped, that makes subtle differences too. And those may come into play when you're talking about your specific body. It's hard to tell, you know, exactly what's going to be perfect for you if you've never hooped before. And I want to be totally honest about that some people are already really, really body aware and have already hooped just a little bit, and so they have kind of a feel for it. But if you've never tried it at all and you don't know at all, I would lean towards the more generous diameter, a little bit bigger, because it's going to go slower. And even I, who've practiced like for 15 years, can totally groove out in a big hoop. Like, it feels good. And so I would lean towards going too big rather than too small, if you're not sure. The tape adds grip, super helpful, and adds a little weight. So I would say that with these hoops, if you haven't hooped much on the waist, or you're like really beginning, that extra weight and the grip are going to help a lot. So one little word about the mini hoop collection. Even though the small, light hoops are really great for the hands, this hoop starts to almost go in the other direction. It's really light, but it goes so fast that it's harder to learn. So this is where we get almost into, like, you know, the smaller on the body, like a 34 inch is really challenging on the body. Like a 20 inch is going to be more challenging on the hand than a 34 inch. And that is mostly a function of speed, because as the hoop gets smaller, it goes faster. There were like two options. There's only two options for hoops when I started hooping. Back in the old days, we didn't have all this fancy, colorful stuff.